This is a different kind of video than I would usually be making, but I wanted to make this video because I want to tell like the story of Jupiter and what happened, because man, it is a crazy tale, and that little dude was a beast of a fighter. I felt like there were enough of you that would care about this, that it felt like something I should still talk about. Especially if you were there on the live streams fairly regularly. I would have Jupiter, a bunny rabbit. He'd be in the room with me hanging out. He'd come say hi. It was great. He was a great little dude. And back in December, my partner and I had to make the very, very difficult decision to let him go, which was, it was at the end of a very long road. And I still get people asking about, more Jupiter videos. Why isn't he in the videos? Or people wanted to see him on streams and whatnot. And I don't know. I didn't talk about it for a bit because my dog's going off. I wanted to make this video as kind of the way to do it. Hey, copy of Pulse arrived. That's fun. Yeah. So I wanted to make this video as the way to announce it. But the channel was in a really low point when that happened. And part of that is because of what was going on. Jupiter was my partner's bunny rabbit that she got. I think she was 13 when she got him, so he's been around for a while now. I had never met a bunny rabbit before. I didn't know anyone who had rabbit pets. And the first time I met him, she carried him out to the car to say hi, and that was really cool. I was shocked by how soft he was. I couldn't believe how soft bunnies were. But when I went to her house for the first time, the first thing he did immediately was sprint over and run between my feet and nuzzle up between my feet. And I didn't realize at the time that was like a really big sign of trust with rabbits. I know that now because we have 4 of them now. None of them do that. One of them does, but not to the extent that he did. Like, she brought him to a fire at my house once with some friends, and I was sitting out at the fire, and he crawled up on my chest, and he was hanging out there, and he started doing the little teeth chattering thing that rabbits do, and I was like, this guy's the best ever. This is so dope. So I fell in love with him right then and there.
Alright. You got a video?
Yeah, you shitty.
So I got on with this dude immediately. He was like the cuddliest little guy. He was super playful. He's very sweet. But I knew nothing about rabbits at the time. Yeah, basically what happened, we took him out to a grooming appointment, which was about like a 45-minute drive probably. And when we got back, we were like, let's let him run around in the grass for a second. He's got his new fresh cut on. He'll go meet some cute chicks, and it's going to be a good time. And as we were picking him up, he was a very docile rabbit, the sweetest little guy, and it was very good with handling. Had never once even tried to do anything like this, but as we were carrying him over to the grass, he leaped from shoulder height. And because he never, ever does that, we weren't anticipating it, and he leaped and landed directly on his spine. And so, he starts like thrashing all over the place and freaking out. And I remember, I'm going to put a warning here because obviously I'm talking about a little animal getting hurt, and that's upsetting. So maybe skip forward a little bit. There's, this is a long road of recovery. So I don't know. It might be upsetting to some people, but I remember looking down at the grass, and he was running, and then his back legs just like stopped working. Like the whole back half of his body basically was just like dragging behind him. And that image has never left my head, and I was just like shocked. So we immediately get him in the car, and my partner's holding him in her lap the whole way over. I remember looking at his eyes, and I didn't think that he was gonna make it through the day. But yeah, the vet was fairly close. And what was funny was that on the way back from the grooming appointment, they had told us at the groomers about a new vet place that had just opened up. And we're like, oh, we're like close to that. We can, you know, we can get him in there. And they did exotics. It's like, this is perfect. And so we had called this vet on the way back from the grooming appointment to get Jupiter onto the account. And so we had just got him signed up with them. And then like not even an hour later, we were emerged with him. So we got in there and yeah, he had wound up paralyzing himself from halfway down. And that was something where, I, again, not knowing much about rabbits, I was just like, this, there's no way that this goes in any sort of good direction. My partner, being the strong-willed, caring person that she is, was not willing to give up, and immediately built this like a whole corner of the room out for him, padded it properly, made sure that it was accommodating to the fact that he could only use his front legs right now. And I wound up staying at her house for basically like I think a month and a half straight, because thankfully, because I did YouTube as a job, I was able to have the schedule flexibility to be there while she was at work. And then when she got back, I would go home and do my editing. I'd bring my laptop with me. I would write there. And then after I was done, caring for him over the day, I would edit. And if I needed to, I would take him to my house to work here, so that I could still, be with him and watch him. And I had to give him medicine 3 times a day. I still remember the doses too, but there were all sorts of different medications, but I had to give them to him 2 to 3 times a day, depending on what stage of recovery we were at. He would just be sitting up, but his legs would be split. It was the strangest looking thing. We wound up discovering a whole whack of other things once this injury came about. When we got home, I don't remember if it was the same night that we got him home or if it was a couple nights after, but he started doing this and we're like, what is going on? Like, what the fuck is that? We're freaking out. We call the vet and we're talking to them, and don't think we took him in that night. I think we may have done it the next day. But yeah, it's hard to remember all the details. A lot of it's rather fuzzy. But what turned out was happening was that many rabbits have what's known as ecaniculate, which is a parasite. And it can be dormant for their entire lives. It can show up in various ways. And what it seems like happened is that the stress caused by the injury caused a flare up with this ecaniculate, and that's basically what was happening. And so we started treating him for that. And then through this, we also found out, he also has dental disease. So we started treating him for that. The vet bills that accrued from this is emergency vet visits are already way more expensive. But when you get into talking about exotics, it is crazy expensive. But we were both willing to, do everything that we could. I mean, I was basically caring for this disabled rabbit full time for months. We both were. Whenever she was not at work, it was all she was doing. And, the iron will that she had in fighting for this guy was something I have not seen many times before in my life. And she actually went out of her way last year to build basically a house for the rabbits in our bedroom. Which she's a carpenter, so she did a phenomenal job with it. Like this whole thing is something that she built herself, which is wildly impressive. But they love it. They spend so much time in there. There's all these little rooms for them. They've got like motion lights. It's very impressive work. I'm not a religious guy, but this was one of the few times that I even found myself praying, because I'm like, just in case. I just wanted to see some movement in that back leg, because they weren't sure if he would recover, if he wouldn't recover. There was a fracture in his spine, but it wasn't, irreparable. And what it seems like happened is that this was probably inflammation that was causing the paralysis, like something pushing against the nerve. And I remember sitting in the room once with him, hanging out, and I saw his back leg just twitch. And I was I mean, it like the feeling of that, I was like, oh my God, like maybe, maybe this could happen. And that was really exciting. And over time, he started showing more improvement, and it was looking like he's gonna be able to walk again. And yeah, eventually he did. I mean, I'm skipping over so much stuff. Like again, this is like a very long road, and it was a lot of hard work and effort. And my partner and I hadn't even been together that long when this happened. So it was maybe only a couple months. So this was certainly an interesting way to get to know someone. Yeah, I remember seeing that movement, and then slowly over time, it was getting better and better and better. And it got to a point where we started doing physiotherapy with him. So we'd be doing these exercises. We'd be like massaging in, whatever ways they told us to. And he was eventually, he never moved the way that he did before the injury. He certainly, he was able to walk again. And one thing to mention too is that throughout this whole process, like he never lost his spirit. That's what like really blows me away about that little dude, is that like the whole time he'd still get like super excited whenever I came in the room, and he'd want to cuddle, and then he'd be hyped up to no end when you pulled out treats or food or whatever the hell you were getting. He went crazy for goldfish crackers, dude, crazy for them. He fought like hell, and he never lost that heart. He was like such a just like good spirited guy. But yeah, so we basically had like regular vet visits to check his vitals and check out the caniculite and the dental disease, and it was unfathomably expensive, but it was worth it, and we got so much extra time out of him. And then in March of last year, 2025, a friend of ours came up to us and was like, "Yo, I just saw this like a ton of rabbits out in this area where I was driving," and we were just like, her being the way that she is, my partner, she was like, let's go look. So we went and we chased them around for a while, because you can't, for those of you who don't know, you can't just dump domestic rabbits outside. People really underestimate, rabbits are very misunderstood. First of all, underrated as hell as pets. Second of all, underrated as hell for how much work they take. And also they're not the same as, outdoor rabbits. You can't just dump domestic rabbits. That's what happened here. There were domestic rabbits that were dumped, they mated, and then there was a litter born. So there's just tons of rabbits running around this neighborhood. And we got one. We wound up keeping him, and that's Benny, who's my little buddy. Benny's a good little dude. I love that guy. He's the only Holland or non-Holland Lop that we have. We're fairly sure he's like a chinchilla breed or something like that, but he's such a good little dude. He was very jumpy at the start, but the reason I'm talking about him is because Benny was so sweet with Jupiter. Like he would be grooming him. You could tell like when Jupiter was having bad days, Benny would be like snuggling up with him and grooming him, and it was really sweet. Like I think he knew that he was older and needed to be taken care of, because Benny has not been like that with the other rabbits that we have. He's good with them, but he didn't treat them the way he did Jupiter, and I think that's because he could tell what was going on. And he never tried to like establish dominance with him either, which was really interesting, because he could have. But yeah, he was just so sweet with him. It was getting better and better and better for a while, and then it kind of plateaued. And then it was getting more difficult. There was never a point where it was like, okay, we're back, we're good, we're clear. It was always like, okay, we got a few good days, so it's gonna, and then something new would happen, and it would be like, okay, here we go again. But I remember probably early November, part of the thing that we were really struggling with was because he was paralyzed. He would pee on himself, and then he couldn't move out of it really. So he would get urine scald, and then, then it would be painful. And so then even when he could walk again, he was already in this loop of like peeing on himself, and then it would hurt, so he wouldn't want to move, and then it would just like, it was a snowballing thing, and we really had a hard time trying to keep that under control. Many, many, many times a day, sometimes I would be picking him up, wiping him down, drying him off, trying to make sure that it wasn't wasn't going to be a problem, but it was tough to keep up with sometimes. That was tough, but we got to a point where it was a little better. But for a while, like he did just have like a bare leg. And here's the thing, I really do want to emphasize that like his spirit was so strong, and that was such a big thing for me, because if he was unable to move and was getting urine scald all the time and he was miserable, it would have been a very different situation in how we dealt with it. But he wasn't. He was still always so happy. And that's great, but it also makes things more complicated at certain points. But yeah, I remember early November. I think I was drying him off, and it was happening more, that he was falling over and getting peeing on himself. And I was drying him off, and he's sitting in my lap, and I looked down at him, and there was a different look in his eye at that point than there had been in the past. And so we kind of started, I think we were both noticing it, and we had a conversation about it, and we went to a couple vet appointments, and we were talking to them about it, and I think we all kind of came to an agreement that it was kind of getting to that point. Like we had gotten so much extra time out of him, and it was great time. Like he was so much fun to be around, and so sweet and funny and full of life. And but that started to change. His weight was just getting like lower and lower, and he started to like show signs of anemia, which was a concern. And when it went, it's there. It was clear it just wasn't responding to it anymore, and so we made the very difficult decision to let him go. It is tough to talk about, because I didn't know him for that long. I only knew him for like a year and a half, but it was like all day, every day. It was taking care of or thinking about taking care of Jupiter. And so I got very close to him. And I took that photo of him, actually. Pretty proud of that. I think it's a good picture. Yeah, so in December, and this was like 3 days before Christmas or something like that. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous. What a terrible time for that to happen. But we didn't want it. We didn't want to wait long enough for something to happen and for it to be, an emergency. Because it was like a steady decline, and we were kind of at the point where like we'd exhausted every option that we had with the vets. So we took him out for a walk in his little stroller. The night before, actually, we'd had steaks, and he got to lick up some steak sauce, which he went crazy for, because we're like, you have what you want, bro. He got to try some Doritos. If he thought goldfish were good because of the cheesiness, he went ape shit for the Doritos. Yeah, the next morning we took him out on a walk in this little stroller that we bought for him so that we could like bring him out places. It was pretty cold, but he got to like soak in the sun. There's this great photo of him like bathing in the sunlight, and he was having a good time. And then yeah, we took him in that morning and went through that whole process, and that was really tough, man. I mean, I'm sure many of you know, and it wasn't my first time doing something like this, but it was certainly my first time doing it with an animal that I was so intimately involved with caring for. And that does make a big difference. Yeah, I mean, the two things I really want to emphasize are how sweet he was and how strong-willed he was, but also how, like, incredible my partner was with him. Like, the amount of work that she put in to taking care of that guy, the amount of money that was spent on him. She would have gone to the ends of the earth for that little guy, and she pretty much did. And I'm just honored that I was able to be a part of taking care of him, and it was something I spent a lot of time doing, and that that is part of why towards the latter half of last year, I was not being as consistent with uploads, because we were having more issues with him, and it was really, really mentally draining. And I couldn't I don't know. I couldn't find it in me. But yeah, like I don't want this to be like just a sad video. I wanted to tell that story because I think that it shows how strong he was. Like you can go if you watch my imaginary video. I did a skit with him, and you can see the life in that dude when I pulled out a marshmallow for him to eat, which you shouldn't give rabbits marshmallows, by the way. It's not good for them. But this is why you gotta know, context. I knew what was going on with him, and I didn't mind him having a treat. That was how he was. The video that I showed at the start of this, like the clip that I showed of him going for the jar of treats, like that was Jupiter. He was, and that was after the accident. Like that, his recovery was crazy. There was a special quality in his eyes that I was introducing. It's so cool because rabbits, they're not as expressive with their faces, so you have to learn their body language more. And I really enjoyed getting to know that and understanding it. But yeah, we actually did wind up getting, after we got Benny, we got 2 more bunnies before Jupiter, just a little while before Jupiter had to be put down. Those were Elodie and Reuben. Jesus, Elodie and Theo. And then after he went, I think in January last month, we got Reuben. So we're at 4. And dude, we knew looking at the photos of Reuben that he kind of looked like Jupiter. But when we picked him up, I don't know if the pictures weren't accurate, or if, it's just one of those things where like he looked different because he was young. He looked so much like Jupiter. It's crazy. And he's got some of the same temperament. Like he's by far our most curious and friendly rabbit. He's always like standing up on his legs and sniffing your face, and he'll run over and he wants to know everything and he wants to know everyone. He's fearless. He'll run around. He'll run up the stairs and go down and walk around the hallway. Like he does not care. He's got some of that in him, but he's still a very unique guy. He's not exactly like Jupiter, because Jupiter was a very special and unique guy. And I didn't realize before I met him that I really like bunnies. They're great pets. To everyone who was left sweet comments about Jupiter and always wanted to see him, thank you for doing that, because that was always really nice. And I'm not even going to be able to do him justice here. Like, I feel like I just want to like show some videos and pictures and stuff so you can get a better idea of who he was. So now we've got our little Fluffle at home, and they're great. We also have 2 cats, and they're also great. They were also very sweet with Jupiter, like would groom him and made sure that he was okay. So there's just a really nice like care amongst the animals. Oh, here's a fun one. Here's a fun little thing I can share about him. I don't know why this happened. The Clown Cafe song from Terrifier 2, catchy as all hell. But I started singing that with like an altered lyrics for Jupiter. I don't know why. So now every time I hear the Clown Cafe song, I think about Jupiter, the bunny guy, the little tiny dude, the bunny who is fluffy and super freaking cute. He's a little guy who just waddles around, 'cause Jumply Pump's a blumple dump in town. Yeah, it was either Jupiter the bunny guy, it turned into Jumply Pump the blumple dump. That was just, natural progression of things. We hung out all the time. He'd watch movies with me. He'd help me edit my videos. He helped me beat the final boss of Lies of P Overture, which I needed. But yeah, while I was editing, he'd be sitting at my feet. While I was watching movies, he'd be sitting at my feet. He would sleep with us in bed. And I'd play with him and like cuddle with him and hang out. And the night before we took him in, I sat on the bed with him, and I came up with a little song on the guitar. I think I have a recording of it somewhere. I can't remember how it went, but he did love listening to music. Like he'd come over when I was playing guitar or piano. And so we were sitting on the bed with him, and I just came up with this little song for him on the spot. Where Lil Do really, really touched my heart. And I just wanted to share it because I know that many of you did care about Jupiter. And so it felt necessary for me to honor him in some capacity. Yeah, I would like to do some videos with the other bunnies. I wish I did more with Jupiter. I really only did the imaginary video, and then I'd bring him on live streams and whatnot. I would have liked to do some more skits with him, but maybe I can do that with the other rabbits. That'd be fun. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna put like pictures and videos of him throughout this video so that you can get an idea of like what he was like. But a little paw print there. Yeah. There's a little note written on the back of it, but I'm not gonna share the note. It was from my partner. But yeah, that's going to be it for me for now. I can check out Pulse, I guess. Does it have an alternate poster? Oh, hell yeah, it does. Well, that's, yeah. I'm just going to end it now. So thanks for sitting with me. And, yeah, take care.